Armando, before we get into geopolitics, what's one moment in your life that made you feel I have to speak up, even if it comes at a cost?
First of all, thank you for inviting me. It's a true honor to be with you today and to connect with young people all over the world, and especially from India, which I have a special connection because I've also used to work for the Ministry of External Affairs for India. I was inside a police car. I couldn't move. I think what youth want is a more just and a more fair world. There is the spiritual part on this, so I'm a bit Gandhian in this sense that I practice meditation and I also believe that we cannot really change anything in the outside world, that if we don't work on ourselves.
You have spoken about your legal case and you said that you were prosecuted for something that you didn't do. So, what did that experience teach you about the system?
It teach you that according to what is convenient to the authorities, the rule of law might change, and so it teaches you that the basic rights like freedom of speech and peacefully protesting are no longer granted, and that there is need for young people and the society. There is need to rethink the old system. So like if a parliamentary MP can go and get a fine, she got like 5,000 euro, much bigger fine than me. Or people can get arrested for peacefully protesting. So it teaches you that we are heading toward a so-called technocratic and controlled society. So it's very dangerous.
So, Armando, if someone says to you that your views are too controversial, how do you respond to them?
Uh, yeah, I think my views might seem controversial, but if you look at the state of the world today, where you have so many conflicts and so many wars, you understand that my views are not so controversial as they may seem, because we actually asking for a more fair system where the international law is respected by all parties in the world. The governments that are in Europe are the one acting controversially, are the one who are proclaiming values and human rights and acting differently when the case of Ukraine or the war in Palestine, or the war that started recently in Iran. So if America illegally attack Iran, it is called exporting democracy. But if it is Russia trying to dialogue with Europe and trying to defend its own national security, then that is the only war of aggression.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Young Indian in Politics, where we bring you sharp, unfiltered conversation with voices shaping today's political landscape, and where we aim to inspire young people to step into leadership. Today, among us, we have Armando Mema, someone who has been outspoken on issues like free speech, governance in the direction Europe is heading in. Armando, it's great to have you with us. In this conversation, we are going to dive into your journey, the experiences that shaped your views, and some of the most pressing questions around free speech, European policy decisions, and the broader geopolitical reality today. I am Shreya, and this is going to be an interesting one. Let's get started. Armando, before we get into geopolitics, what's one moment in your life that made you feel I have to speak up, even if it comes at a cost? Like, what exactly happened in that moment?
First of all, thank you for inviting me. It's a true honor to be with you today and to connect with young people all over the world, and especially from India, which I have a special connection because I've also used to work for the Ministry of External Affairs for India. So for me, it's a pleasure to discuss with you global issues and of course politics. So first, I think the moment like that made me speak up really. I think it was during the European elections when we had the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen coming in Finland to have a public speech, and uh, that was the moment that I really felt to speak up and to join the protest. There was a protest there from other youths from the University of Helsinki. And Europe has gone through many challenges in the past years. And first, the corona pandemic time, and then the war in Ukraine started, and then the war in Israel and Palestine. And I think the war, especially the genocide in Gaza, was something that really, like as a young person living in a world, I think it's the biggest form of injustice in a world. It's and the worst crime ever is genocide. And so in that moment, I joined the protest with European Commission President, and uh, I really protested, of course, peacefully. And after that, you might have known that the video of this moment went viral all over the world, and also Elon Musk shared this video on his profile on X. So I think what youth want is a more just and a more fair world. So that this is the basic principle that made me join politics. That the youth thrive for having to build a better world, basically.
All right, Armando. So, how exactly that it change your thinking afterwards?
Yes, so it changed my thinking because uh, as a young person, I couldn't just accept the fact that the European Union could not do more in terms of human justice and human rights. So I felt inside me the human duty to protest, and um, somehow a boundary. Like I felt connected to these people who I've never met, I've never seen them in face to face, but they live from the other part of the globe, and they are going through the most inhuman conditions that one could ever think. So I said to myself, this is the very little I can do, is to not remain indifferent to that human suffering.
Right. So you have also taken strong public positions, and you have also faced legal consequences. Like, was there a point where you questioned it, whether it is even worth it or not?
Yes, so of course, I've just received last week the final decision on my court case, and the Helsinki District Court has charged me with um, the penalty of 110 euros for damage to an official, according to them. So this relate free speech and peaceful demonstration is a basic human right. So it felt, when we talk about the global order, and we talk about the other countries like China or Russia or North Korea, and when something like this can happen in a democratic, so-called democratic continent like Europe, it really makes you revise your concept of democracy, because if this we cannot stand against uh, what are the worst crimes against humanity, then basically freedom of speech is really threatened, and consequently also the possibility of a global war. So you think about this, and you like, yes, of course, maybe if I was in Russia or North Korea, I might have gone through a more extended sanction or imprisonment. um, that is also true, but the thing here is that we live in a society which claim to be free, and where freedom of speech is the basic fundamental right of our democracy. And so when this is undermined, and it can be also seen under the eyes of everyone, then it makes you rethink the level of democracy which we have in Europe, and the need to as young person and for youth to do more into uh, making for future generation that they have to struggle more, for having this freedom of speech and human rights. So basically, this says that our rights are no longer granted as before, and this, of course, this incident made me revised, and it kind of instead of demoralizing me and just uh, giving up on freedom of speech and democracy, it's something that it actually had the opposite effect on me, on wanting to give a more positive contribute in the community where I live.
All right. So, like, what was the toughest moment during that phase?
Well, I think the toughest moment was when I was inside a police car. I couldn't move, uh, and I was basically arrested for speaking up against the policy of our leader here in Europe. And it was emotionally tough because I couldn't expect that kind of reaction from the authorities, because Finland is considered to be one of the happiest country in the world, and where you have freedom, democracy, and human rights. And then when you really challenge the authorities, then something of this sort happens. So that was the toughest moment for me. But after that, I received a lot of support from the people all over the internet, and the comments, which I'm very grateful, because it shows that uh, all over the world people care about freedom of speech. They care about global issues, and it is not true what they say about youth, that they do not really care about politics. I don't think it's the case.
So, Armando, we have seen that you have gone through a lot of hardships. So, like, what kept you going despite all of that?
Yes, of course, there is the spiritual part on this. So I'm a bit Gandhian in this sense, that I practice meditation, and I also believe that we cannot really change anything in the outside world, that if we don't work on ourselves. And I think the my faith, my religion, I'm Christian by religion, but it is something that is pushing me to continue this journey. And I think it's very important that there is this component in politics, because what we're seeing from the world leaders is a lack of that spiritual part, that it's part of the human being, no matter the religion, no matter the culture you have. All humans, they have that spirituality side, and that it affects then the outside reality we live in. So yes, definitely.
All right. So, Armando, you have also said that free speech is under threat in Europe. Like, what personal experience of yours has shaped that belief? Like, was there any specific incident that triggered this view?
Yeah, but if you think during that incident, I was running myself as a candidate for the European Parliament. So I was a candidate in opposition to there, and the local media in Finland, they did not report the incident for fear that this might have affected the image of the democracy and the image of European Commission president. So what happened for all over a year, the media did not report one single piece of article about the incident. And only after, when I started to have interviews outside Finland in other news, like in France, I had interviews with Toxin News, and I had also interviews in Russian television. And so when you see that the old system is collaborating into silencing you for an incident that anyway it went viral on the internet. So people have shared the video on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or other social media. So I find fascinating that in a democratic country like Finland, where you're supposed to have freedom of speech, I have to go through such a journey to have basically the news reported, because that is the fundament of democracy, having a free media. So if you I think this incident um, really can show how when you challenge the authority, you find a lot of barriers there, and it's not as smooth as it might seem. So this, of course, made me rethink about the level of democracy that we have. The European Union then constantly repeats that all the values and these Western values that we constantly repeat to ourselves and to the rest of the world, that somehow the Western hemisphere has this higher standards, but you can see in this specific case, you can see that it's not the case. So there is a need to rethink democracy and the freedom of speech, as is getting more and more difficult to talk.
So, do you think that it is becoming a broader systematic issues nowadays?
Absolutely. If you think about the Irish teacher in Ireland, where he got imprisoned for simply teaching a basic thing to the students there, they were asking him, is it okay to like, can a male become a female, or can a female become a male? And he said his opinion as a teacher, and he got imprisoned for that in Ireland. So, like, you see, we had also in Finland, we had Päivi Räsänen, which is a parliamentary in the Finnish parliament, so he's an MP, and she quoted the Bible verse about basically she wrote her opinion about homosexuality, and she only posted a Bible quote on social media, and then she got fined by the Helsinki District Court. So this is touching also the high levels of our society. So it's not just about basic people or basic citizen, but it's also affecting the people who are in the parliament. So this tells you that freedom of speech it's going at all level, and you have the global order, or the capitalistic order that is now reshaping a world where or like in UK, that people got arrested for posting on social media. So definitely the trend is going in that direction. So the trend is going in a direction where freedom of speech it is contained, and more people start to fear to express their opinions. So definitely, at least in Europe, this is the direction is going.
All right, Armando. So now let's move towards the core discussion. You have spoken about your legal case and you said that you were prosecuted for something that you didn't do. So, what did that experience teach you about the system?
Well, it teach you that uh, according to what is convenient to the authorities, the rule of law might change, and so it teaches you that the basic rights like freedom of speech and peacefully protesting are no longer granted, and that there is need for young people and the society. There is need to rethink the old system. So like if a parliamentary MP can go and get a fine, she got like 5,000 euro, much bigger fine than me. uh, or people can get arrested for peacefully protesting. So it teaches you that we are heading toward a so-called technocratic and controlled society. So it's very dangerous, because this means that when our governments are acting wrong, we have less chances of making our voice heard and impacting the decision of our leaders.
All right. So, did it also change your trust in institutions?
Well, of course, it has undermined the trust in the European institution. Um, uh, it makes you, because imagine being like me, a young person who got educated in Italy. I finished my school in Italy. I graduated as an accountant and commercial expert, and you've been fed up with all this ideology that we have freedom of speech and we have basic human rights, and then when you go out there and join a peaceful protest, then you face the reality of things. So I think it's very serious that uh, I'm not a person who joins protest easily. Like I would like really look into the matter and see what are the positive and negative of a specific case before joining. But this was like regarding the war. So I was for the human rights, and then it makes you rethink the trust in democracy, and this of course doesn't mean that I would rather have a more like um, from other countries, like having a system which is more controlled, like let's say China, for example. So I would not want to live in a system like China, but I would also be mindful why the system in Europe should be like that. So this I want to say, like also for China, there are aspects, that we also have to learn from each other. So it's not, I don't want to do like the European that continues on the story of double standards. No, we have a lot. I think we have a lot to learn from each other in the world, and I'm basically focusing on my area of the world, of how personally I can improve the community where I live. And I don't think like youth people should be afraid to join protest when something is done wrong by the government.
Absolutely. Got your point, Armando. So, can you suggest us one change in the system that you could make?
So one in terms of changing the system, it's a very slow process that
Right.
it takes the effort of working together as a community. But the fact that the video managed to go viral all over the world, and people could see in real time that what's the actual level state of democracy in Europe. I think that was itself was a little step more to understand better the reality, and which somehow brought some change, because uh, the whole point is to recognize what the state of things is in a society. And today the revolutionary thing, the first revolutionary thing, is to understand that there is something wrong in the system we live, and that's the beginning of the change.
All right. So, Armando, if someone says to you that your views are too controversial, how do you respond to them?
um yeah, I think my views might seem controversial, but if you look at the state of the world today, where
Mm.
you have so many conflicts and so many wars, you understand that my views are not so controversial as they may seem, because we actually asking for a more fair system, where the international law is respected by all parties in the world. So I don't think it is here in Europe. There has been a major attack from the media that somehow my opinions are only pro-Russia, or I have views that are anti-European. But actually, this is not true, because um, I am in my specific case, I am actually fighting for those so-called values for the European Union. So I am fighting for the freedom of speech. I am fighting for human rights. On the contrary, the governments that are in Europe are the one acting controversially, are the one who are proclaiming values and human rights, and acting differently when the case of Ukraine, or the war in Palestine, or the war that started recently in Iran. So I think these cases makes people realize that there is something really deep troubling into our Western society. So how it is that if America illegally attack Iran, it is called exporting democracy. But if it is if it is Russia trying to dialogue with Europe and trying to defend its own national security, then that is the only war of aggression that has to be condemned. So you have to build a global world where the international law is respected. So it doesn't matter whether it's Pakistan or India or Iran or America, whoever commits a war of aggression and does not respect the international law has to go through uh, the whole international community must come together and must make change in the actions of that country. So I think the real controversy here is not about me having those opinions, but the governments that continue to act in a controversial way in our world.
All right. So, do you think controversy is necessary to drive changes?
Uh, of course, you have, like, if you see, like, I like one expression from Africa which is very beautiful, that in order to educate a child you need the whole village. So we are driven by the actions of other people, and we make some decision based on how the other people act. So it is very important that there should be people having the courage to stand up when something is deeply wrong, and so also the other people can follow the example. So I'm quite confident in that if the old system does not speak, some people have to stand and make a difference. Otherwise, then there cannot be change in anything of what we are in the system right now.
All right. So, we have seen that you have openly criticized EU leaderships. So, according to you, what is the biggest mistake that Europe is making right now?
The biggest mistake that Europe is making right now is to remain indifferent to what America is doing in Iran, and also in the support of Israel. Israel is having conflicts on multiple regions, from Lebanon to Gaza to it has bombed so far. The country that has bombed over 7 or 8 countries altogether in a year. So when you think about sitting at the United Nations and you look who are the countries that are causing more troubles in the world, and the biggest mistake Europe is making right now is to be siding in this with Israel and with America, instead of siding by the international law and the respect of the United Nations Charter. So this, if you do not stand in this critical moment for the world, then what happened? You have a world more destabilized, where conflicts become the normality. Every day a new conflict starts, and it's not sustainable. Make a very short example for the economy. Europe right now is facing an energetic crisis, which is going to affect so badly the economy. We used to get our energy from Russia, and we started to depend from the Middle East after cutting our ties with Russia. And now because of the war, and the Strait of Hormuz is closed due to the war on Iran, we are facing a tremendous economic crisis. So the fuel prices are rising up. Now people have just started to feel this when they pay for fuel at the station, but in the near future is going to affect also the cost of living of the Europeans. So again, you see that everything is connected, and our choices, if for example Europe would have worked in a more peaceful direction and respect for international law. I make you an example. Spain, which stood against genocide and against the war in Iran, is among the few countries which are allowed to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. So this is a little example that shows you how when you as a government try to make the things right, then after you can also join the benefits of those actions. And Spain in Europe now is among the country that is feeling a bit less the ongoing crisis with Iran.
So, do you think that there is someone who is benefiting from these decisions?
Of course, here we the major people who benefits from this are the lobbies. So the lobbies who have control of the world wealth. So they have total control of this. Uh, Definitely, for example, Russia is benefiting from the rise of prices in oil, so they are making extra profits from the war in Iran. You have companies that produce weapons like Lockheed Martin or Palantir, that they are making huge money out of the building those weapons for the war to continue. So this tells you that in a moment of global crisis, there is always someone benefiting from those actions. Um, but in the long run, nobody benefits, because we are reaching a point where the global economy could crash. You have Pakistan or India that may face a tremendous crisis from the uh, gas prices. You might have a situation in near future where restaurants or homes don't have gas to basically cook the food, or simply have the material for the economy, like the fuel. So at the end of it, you see that wars do not benefit to the international community. So they only benefit a few individuals who hold those strategic assets, and so politicians should work into the whole community, so for the whole community in the world, and also where you're living. So it should be a matter of global benefit for all, not just for the few.
So, what's one immediate correction that you would suggest in this situation?
Well, first of all, regarding Iran, America has to back off, and they have to stop the war in Iran, because it might cause a global crash in the economy, and also take the war near to a nuclear war. So there is also the real risk of a nuclear war between Israel and Iran. So uh, then regarding Ukraine, Europe has to reestablish dialogue with Russia and try to find a diplomatic solution for the war in Ukraine to end through diplomacy. So they have to, if they do these two things that they seem just easy, uh, you'll have global markets restabilizing, Strait of Hormuz will reopen, and Europe will be able to buy again cheap energy from Russia. And most importantly, the people of Ukraine can join the European Union in future, and they can have a future as a nation. And the same for Iran. They can return to having peace in their country. So here I see the BRICS countries in this, they play a very big role, and I would hope also for India in the near future to be more protagonist in the international arena, and try to work more toward this world of global cooperation, instead of sometimes taking sides on certain issue.
All right. So you have argued that Europe is becoming more militarized instead of focusing on diplomacy. So why do you think diplomacy is being sidelined?
Yes, again, it is being put aside because there are big interest in the people who have strategic interest for the war to continue. So, if you think about the war in Ukraine, which was provoked and was the whole idea of the war in Ukraine was to detach Europe from the energetic ties from Russia. So I'll make you an example. Right now, Europe is buying energy 4 times higher from the United States and allies. So again, there are people who are benefiting. I make an example of Finland, where I live. um, the biggest Russian companies which produce oil, they no longer serve in the market, and you have major American companies providing fuel in the market. So again, you have few groups of individuals who are benefiting, and Europe, what is doing? Europe now, there is this false narrative that Russia is interested in grabbing more land, so that after it will be finishing with conquering Ukraine, then it will extend to other countries in Europe. And that is simply nonsense, because Russia has one of the countries that has largest territory on the planet, and they benefit a lot. Before the war started, they used to benefit a lot into selling energy to Europe. So definitely they want to reestablish dialogue with Europe, and they want to reopen the market with Europe. So again, the European leaders, what they're doing, we have an economic crisis going on, and the markets, they have developed. Like, let's say, if Africa is a continent that has not yet joined the full industrialization and that economic wealth, you have Europe that has already been industrialized. So the market cannot produce anything new. So what the market, they're trying to reshaping the market in, let's say, Germany. You have companies like Porsche or Volkswagen that they're stopping to produce car, and they're starting to produce weapons. So this tells you that there is an ongoing profit, because if you think about the market, uh, the company who produced those weapons, like, let's say, Rheinmetall in Germany, they produce tanks.
Hmm.
Since the war in Ukraine started, their shares on the market, they have multiplicated, they have increased, and this gives you a good example. So the market goes in one direction, and the war also. So uh, Europe is making a very big mistake into rearming, because Russia is starting to feel Europe as a threat. So we are giving weapons to Ukraine, and we are saying that we want Ukraine to have a large military, and we want Ukraine to join NATO alliance, which is further expansion of NATO. And
Right.
so, yes.
Yes, sure. So I wanted to ask, like, so do you think leaders of the current world believe that military strength is the only option today?
Unfortunately, the current leadership in the Western world, they think like that. They think that only through military action you can actually make changes, and this is the case for Iran, for example. They thought that they're gonna defeat Iran in the short term and change the regime into a democratic regime, and that is more pro-Western, and so unfortunately they are scrapping aside the international order, and they are saying yes, we have to invest in the military because this is the only language Russia understands, for example. So this is a very, very dangerous direction, because it is not true that it is the only that should be the only language in our modern world, especially after Second World War, where we have seen where humanity can go. So now you have a world where more countries that have nuclear capabilities are at war. We had Pakistan and India some times ago that they started having tensions with each other, or Pakistan and Afghanistan, or the current Russia with Ukraine, or Israel and America with Iran. So again, you have so many countries which are nuclear capable, um, that may lead easily into a major conflict. And talking, for example, about Iran, so now Iran is facing a choice of acquiring or not the nuclear weapons, and they have tried diplomacy with the United States, and United States has continued to choose the military option. And so you are going through a world where it's more militarized, and with more nuclear proliferation. So let's say now Iran acquires the nuclear weapons because that's the only language the United States understand. Then all Middle East countries will start to acquire nuclear weapons, and you have caused the opposite effect. So America wanted Iran not to acquire the nuclear weapons, and now through the military option, it can cause the opposite effects. And so again, diplomacy is very important instrument, and it's the only tool politicians have to work for a more better world. So it's very important that we reestablish at disposal those tools. And as we clearly seen with the war in Iran, the military option can be the worst choice ever in some cases. So
Right. So talking about diplomacy, what would a diplomatic approach look like in practice, according to you?
first of all, it requires mutual respect. So you
Right.
have to have mutual respect with the between the parties, and you need a language that it's not a warmongering language that, oh, we have to inflict the biggest pain ever on Russia. Or so you need to have an adult approach that what are the demands of Russia in the conflict in Ukraine, or what are the demands of the Iranians, or what are the demands of the Americans, and you have to put those demands into a mutual discussion. So definitely this whole idea that the Western world is the only one who respect the international law, and that a few groups of nation can impose on the majority of world population how the world should look like. Definitely it's a step that you have to look into it and to say, well, uh, we shouldn't be imposing how the world should look like, let's say on India or China, that the whole population alone makes a lot in terms of so you need definitely you need bridges, so you need more people working for peace. You need to build bridges and not walls.
All right. Moving to the next question, you have used the term Eurosuicide. What exactly do you mean by that?
Yes, so first of all, this term, Eurosuicide, has been stamped by the economist Gabriele Guzzi, which is a teacher of university in Rome, in Italy. So he has made the book, which is called Eurosuicide. And this term, it has been stamped by him, and I have fairly reused it because it is the reality. So in this book, the professor Guzzi, he expressed very well the state of things in Europe, and how economically Europe is making this Euro suicide. So Euro suicide means the end of the European Union. It means the end of that treaty and agreements that has been made through European nations into building a common future together. So you have the possibility of European nation now exiting, like the case of Britain, that it exit the European Union. And so you have countries now rethinking how the political system should be. And Euro suicide, it means that Euro is collapsing economically, politically, and ideologically. So this is unfortunately the direction that the leaders in Europe are pushing to, because what is the use of Europe was to build a lasting peace, so we don't repeat the same mistake as the Second World War. And now you have an European Union who wants to be militarized and have built its own army. So it is completely unthinkable that one institution which was born exactly to prevent the militarization is now working through the militarization. So and also economically, the value of euro, if, for example, the war now in Iran continues, and Europe does not acquire cheap energy from Russia, the currency is going to be damaged and lose value, and have less power of purchasing. So Euro suicide, it's a term. Again, I've not made this term, but it is representing well the state of things in Europe right now. And so I wanted to point out this thing, that it's not my specific stamp conjugate term.
All right. So, are there any long-term consequences related to it?
Of course, there are consequences from all aspects. So there is consequences for the human life loss in Ukraine and Russia, or Iran. So there's consequences at all level in society. Right now, Finland has the highest unemployment rate all over Europe zone. So we stopped to trade with Russia, and now we are feeling the consequences of such sanctions that we wanted to impose upon Russia. So we have highest unemployment rate in Europe. Companies which are failing because are not able to deliver the service or the products in the markets. We had, for example, Finland had tourism will benefit 1 million euro per day from Russia. And so in the long run, this is going to create more unemployment, more also cost of living is going to rise. You're going to have inflation, you're going to have higher prices on the products. And now Europe is considering limiting the flights, so there will be less use in fuel for the flights, or is considering an approach of like the pandemic approach, like is telling people that where possible you should work from home, so you don't take your car and you consume fuel to go to work. So these are all signals that we are heading into a big economic crisis, and it's going to affect the all levels of society in Europe. So is this really worth, like can we do better? Can we like reestablish dialogue with Russia and buy again? For the case of Finland, if Finland changes approach, it in let's say in a global scenario of energetic crisis, Finland will be among the few countries who can still, depend on energy from Russia and be safe economically. But other countries may face shortage of gas, of fuel, and so in the long run, the whole idea was we're gonna apply those sanctions on Russia because it does not respect the international law. And now we are buying 4 times higher from the United States, which, by the way, is also having a war of aggressions against Iran. So does it make sense for Finland strategically to continue for this direction? In my view, it does not. For Europe is also pretty much the same. Europe can benefit a lot into reestablishing dialogue with Russia. So again, it's a political choice where the leadership wants to head, and in a multipolar world, it is needed to have relations with all parties. Like you cannot like, oh, we're gonna sanction them because they do not respect international law. Fine, but then you will also need to sanction the United States of America. And they say, no, we're not going to sanction them because then we will run out of energy and out of fuel. So again, where is the logic here? So you have to act in terms of either for all parties they respect international law, or otherwise it does not make sense strategically to apply sanction to one country and to another country to say, oh, but you are exporting democracy in Iran, so it is just fine by that. No, it shouldn't be working like that.
So, do you think that the current world leaders are ignoring these risks?
Especially in Europe, they are ignoring this because when you hear, like, for example, President of Finland, Stab, he made a very strong statement. He said that Ukrainian war, it is his personal war. So you have like the head of diplomacy, Callas, that, oh, we're gonna inflict the biggest loss ever on Russia, and we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. Like they are not based on the reality, so they don't see the long picture. They don't see what can happen next, and how badly their choices can affect. So definitely we don't have, the only little bit of leadership that I've seen so far in Europe is by Spain, when the war of aggression against Iran started. They took a firm decision, and they also stood against the genocide in Gaza, or Hungary and Slovakia, that they said, no, we don't want to cut all our ties with Russia. We want to protect our own economies. So the rest of the EU leadership are like based. They're not based on the reality. They think that they still think that they have higher moral grounds than the rest of the world. They still think that they're the only one who respect international law, and they still think that what they're doing is the only way to proceed, because they feel superior through the rest of the world, and that is a very huge mistake, because we should build a world of mutual understanding and mutual respect, not that one side is an hegemon, because it no longer can be the world like it used to be. Now you have rising powers. You have India is becoming has already become one of the largest world economy. So you had some times ago European leaders telling India that you should not buy energy from Russia. And yes, but are you aware that this may cause huge poverty and huge problems in the country if they do so? So the world, we have to accept that the world is multipolar, and that we have to find a way to live together in a normal and balanced world order. So this is what I'm trying to do in my work. I'm trying to work for a multipolar world, where international law is respected, and not this idea of unipolar world, that only the Western country are the one who should influence the big organization like the United Nations or others how to act. So uh, this is unless we work, in my opinion, in this direction, then we're going to have more and more conflicts in the world.
All right. Talking about Russian-Ukraine war, you have suggested that Ukraine should consider negotiation even if it involves territorial compromise. Do you think that this is politically realistic?
Uh, yes, it is. It is politically realistic, because if you take the case of the war in Yugoslavia, uh, the war between Serbia and Kosovo, where the international community established a sovereign country, a new country out of the previous Yugoslavian territory. So they established, after NATO started a military action in the 1990 against Serbia. Then they made a new country, basically, because Kosovo people are ethnic Albanians. So we speak the same language, and we are the same people, but they created a new country in order to build a lasting peace in the region. So this we already have a similar case in history, and now the complex of Ukraine is a bit complex, because when Ukraine had the independence, they were part of the Soviet Union, and they found different ethnic nationalities inside the same country, and that's how the tension started between Ukrainians and Russians. So you have in some of those regions, you have majority of ethnic people there that are speaking Russian, the ethnic Russian. So you had they had the referendum, like people had voted if they could they wanted to join Russia as a territory or they wanted to be part of Ukraine. uh, it is again a political choice that can be made. There is a willing part, for example, from Russia to negotiate on the territories, on the zones. Like you don't have a case where Russia is saying, fine, like I'm gonna impose whatever I want and you either accept it or not. No, we had on multiple occasions possibility of rebuilding Ukraine with 800 billion a fund proposed by President Trump. So again, thinking after the war, so how to rebuild the nation. So it is possible. So because otherwise, if it's not possible, then this will undermine also the sovereignty of a country like Kosovo. So then Serbia can start and say, well, we have the right to get back Kosovo, and again start a new conflict in the region, in the Balkans. So you see, these cases have been possible before in history. They can be there with a political solution, without a military one. Right now, we are heading through a military solution, and it's causing tremendous suffering for the Ukrainians, especially, and it's not creating the basement for negotiation. Like it's not like it's making the negotiation better for Ukraine. So Ukraine, the more the war continues, the less they have to negotiate, because they are losing territories and they are losing in the battlefield. So you have to look for a diplomatic solution the earliest possible. And yes, you can if you have sorry if you have redefined the borders before, then you can also do it again if this will create the condition for a lasting peace.
Rightly said so. So, do you think leaders are avoiding this conversation?
No, they don't buy. Unfortunately, the leaders in Europe, they don't buy this conversation. They buy the conversation that they are the one on morally highly standard, so they are the one who respect international law, and that they should unconditionally impose upon Russia what the terms for their own national security should be. So like this whole idea that uh, we're gonna build our own security and we're gonna put our military bases next to your borders without even questioning you. So this is unfortunately the mainstream media and the whole system has been fueling an anti-Russian narrative, um, describing Russia as the only actor in the world that does not respect international law. And um, the Europeans at the moment, they don't buy this story. They don't buy that Russia can be a good actor in the world. So it is of course it is wrong, because regarding stabilizing the market. So for example, Russia has understood that if the war in Iran continues, there could be a global crash on the world economy, which they're also going to lose. And President Putin has called Saudi Arabia and other Gulf countries, and is trying a diplomatic solution on how to restabilize the markets and how to avoid that process of global economic crash. So you see that unfortunately, uh, most people are not aware of how geopolitics work and how the markets and how the old those things work. So they only see what the mainstream media tell them, and unfortunately, people right now see, oh, we had 3 drones crashing into Finland, and yeah, but this would have not happened if Russia did not start the aggression. So again, it doesn't. They don't see the whole picture and how historically the conflict started and all those things. So it is really difficult. For example, for me as a politician, it's really difficult to talk with the people because the debates infuriates very fast. Like there is only one mainstream narrative. They don't understand that the world is more complex than just good or bad actors. Like it's much more than that. And of course it's really challenging, but I continue in my career in the sense that it's important for youth to be sensible to peace, and uh, clearly cannot be sustainable to have to live in a world where every day a new conflict starts.
Hmm. All right. Moving to the next question, Armando, you have criticized Western support strategies. Do you believe that war is being prolonged as a matter of policy? Because that is a very strong claim to make.
Yes, war is being prolonged because initially the idea when the war started in Ukraine was we gonna support Ukraine with military so that Ukraine will be in a strong position for negotiation with Russia. So initially the idea was we gonna give weapons to Ukraine so that they can sit and they can have a voice when they're disputing the territorial issue and other things. But then from then you move to another moment where the leader said, yeah, we can now impose a strategic defeat on Russia. So um, they are detached from reality in that sense, because Russia is much more capable in terms of military, and even this is a matter of existential threat for them to have more military bases next to Ukraine. And they definitely cannot accept Ukraine joining NATO and having long range missiles from NATO in Ukraine, which could reach the cities of Russia. So uh, we moved from we gonna give weapons to Ukraine for diplomacy and negotiating a peace with Russia at certain point to we gonna impose a strategic defeat on Russia. And if we can just keep the conflict continue a bit more, then Russia will collapse economically. And all these sort of crazy ideas that if Russia were to collapse economically, they will very likely use nuclear weapons in Ukraine. They will rather like because they face an existential threat. So wanting Russia to collapse economically, it's not a very clever strategy because Russia is still capable of doing more actions to protect its national security. So the leaders, they are like, we're gonna inflict strategic defeat, and if Ukraine can hold up a little bit more, then we will have enough army built in Europe that we may eventually put boots on the ground so that Russia will not conquer all of Ukraine. So you had the coalition of the willing openly discussing the possibility of having boots on the ground, European boots on the ground. So what this tells us, it tells us that uh, the current leadership in Europe does not understand the risk of a major conflict, the risk of nuclear exchange. They don't understand that Ukrainians are the one paying the heaviest price for this. The nation before the war, they had 40 million people, and 20 million people, they fled the country. They went as refugees in other European countries. So you having you causing upon Ukrainians heavy losses, and you don't have a clear strategy for where the war is gonna end, and at the same time you are investing in more weapons and more army. So this it's a clear dangerous strategy. And by the way, that even if we were to put boots on the ground, that we have Western soldiers in Ukraine, the nature of the conflict, it will not change because now the Russians have over 4 years experience in this war, and they're gonna continue with drones and missiles and the same. So like uh, if you have European troops on the ground, they will not gonna change much the direction this war is going, because the way the war is being fought, you will have eventually European casualties. People will be dying in Ukraine, and then you will have a war of attrition, and you will have a major conflict between the NATO and Europe. And this is it's a strategic failure for Europe. Like, you don't want to end up in a conflict with Russia. You don't want the economy in Europe to get worse and worse. So again, these people, they serve the interests of these privates. So they don't serve the interests. Normal leaders will be like, okay, what will be the solution out of this? Like, what can Europe do in this? And they are having a wrong approach of the war. And as for me, the case of appearing in Russian media, it has been some sort of miracle, because I have not hold any position in the European Parliament, so I was only a candidate. And the fact that Russia is listening to anti-war voices like me, it is for me, it's a positive thing. But for the mainstream media, this has been seen some. They portrayed somehow that, oh, you are doing Russian propaganda, and somehow I'm serving the propaganda for Russia. But no, I'm trying to see what could be the interest best for Europe, for Finland, and for Ukraine. So this is how I see things. And unfortunately, not everyone understand this. They think that, oh, somehow Russia must be paying you, or you are doing the interest. No, like, I am advocating for peace. I'm advocating for what our leaders are failing to do.
So, who is actually benefiting from prolonging the whole conflict?
Well, it's now is multiple actors. So you have the British, that they have long tensions with Russia, which they want the war to weaken Russia economically. The United States is the major actor who is benefiting from the continuation of the war in Ukraine. You have a video of previous state secretary in 2014 from Cortez. During an interview, she said that in the long run, Russia will run out of cash because it won't be able to sell the energy to Europe. So they clearly stated that they wanted to cut the dependency on Russian energy, and so they will weaken, contain Russia in the global arena. So Russia will have to look for alternative markets to sell its oil, and will no longer benefit from having good relations with Europe. So you have the United States that is benefiting in terms of selling weapons, because let's not forget that the weapons that through the program pool, they are mainly coming from the American companies. So the American companies are making a lot of money out of the weapons sold in Ukraine, and the energy companies producing gas and oil are having big profits into selling energy to a higher price to European markets. So these are the main people who are benefiting. Certainly, Europe is not benefiting from this. Europe, in this sense, it's losing a lot strategically and geopolitically. So Europe here, it's a satellite of the United States, and we are losing a lot in this conflict. So there is no reason for the war to continue.
All right. Talking on NATO and EU expansion, do you think that this is increasing instability rather than reducing it? Like, does expansion escalate tensions further?
Yes, there is a proven data historically that wherever NATO goes and expand, it creates economic depression, economic problems for the countries. And this is a very good example. Finland, before joining NATO with policies of neutrality, they benefit from tourism from Russia. They benefit from cheap energy, and look at the economy now. Look at the unemployment rising. Look at the prices. Look what's happening, and look at the security. Like having Ukrainian drones crashing into Finland territory. Like Finland used to be such a peaceful country before. Like you wouldn't think about drones dropping in Finland, but the war it's causing this, and um, now Finland wants to change the nuclear policy of hosting nuclear weapons. So this is a major thing that it has come after joining NATO. So because now we join NATO, NATO wants to be able to transfer their nuclear arsenal among the NATO countries. So how this is making Finland more safe and secure is not benefiting economically, and it's not making it more secure in terms of security. So as for the example of Finland, it clearly shows that NATO expansion, it is a wrong policy. Security has to be built together with your neighbors. So we cannot decide how many military bases to have next to Russia, and Russia to be like, okay, like you can do whatever you want. No, it doesn't work like that. You need to negotiate. You need to be like, what is it okay for you and what it is not okay. And Russia has many times has said that if the NATO expansion continue, then there are going to be tensions with us. And again, NATO as during the 90s, as because Russia was economically weak at that time, and uh, they couldn't do much in terms of foreign policy. So NATO took the advantage of expanding, because at that time Russia couldn't do much in protesting against the expansion. But then after the economic growth of Russia and the return of having modern technology and missiles and all the military, then Russia it's no longer the country it used to be in the 90s. So when we insisted on the policies of wanting to impose expansion, then Russia said like, I don't want NATO to expand in Ukraine. That's a no for me. And we rejected the diplomacy, and then the conflict started. So uh, NATO expansion, it does not bring more security. It brings more instability, more tensions. And look at Finland now.
Right. So, moving towards the rapid fire round, here I'll ask you some questions and you need to answer it within 1 or 2 lines, within 1 or 2 seconds. Okay. So, my first question for you is one decision the EU should reverse immediately.
Stopping sanctions against Russia and against the Russian energy. So they should stop the sanctions against Russia, and they should try to actually buy, because this will stabilize the global market. So well, this is one thing.
All right. And one global leader who is handling this situation well.
Pedro Sanchez.
Oh,
He is handling for his nation. He's handling the situation well because he is having an approach that is more realistic to what the benefits for Europe should be. So definitely Pedro Sanchez.
all right. And biggest threat to Europe right now.
Biggest threat to Europe is Europe itself. Yeah, unfortunately, we are the threat to ourselves because we are continuing the policies of Eurosuicide instead of trying to find a way out to make things work for better. So this one is for sure Europe.
All right. Diplomacy or military strength? What matters more in the longer term?
Depends, of course. Now everyone knows that I'm an anti-war candidate, and I would say definitely diplomacy over military action. But it depends. In some extreme rare cases, one might also opt for military option. But uh, definitely the role of politicians should be to avoid conflicts. So if politics fails conflict, then you're only left with military choices. So
All right. One uncomfortable truth that people are not talking about.
one uncomfortable truth.
Right.
Um, probably the genocide in going on in Gaza. Like people, I see it's very uncomfortable for people to talk about it and discuss it and more freely. Like they are afraid because it's such a big issue. So I think this is one uncomfortable truth. Yeah.
Okay. If current policies continue, what does Europe look like in 5 years?
It's gonna look like the third continent. Like you're gonna have uh, um, other continents growing economically and being wealthier, and Europe will look the poorest continent on planet Earth. So I think that's the direction we are heading to, and it's quite unbelievable to see it right now, because you're like we have been leading the global economy for a very long time. But in my opinion, in the long run, if we don't change those policies, we're gonna be the third continent in the world. We're gonna be like the bottom line.
All right. My last final question to you. What message would you give to young people who want to speak up but are afraid of the consequences?
Uh, well, pick up your fights very carefully. What is truly important for you in your life, and choose your battle very carefully, and try your best.
And what would you say to someone who feels that the system is too powerful to challenge?
Yeah, so if you think that the system is too powerful to challenge, it's partially true. But if you don't like the current world and the way it is going, and you would like it to change, then you have to do something about it, even if it's very risky for you to speak up. And courage and bravery, it's needed to build a better world.
All right, Armando. Thank you so much for giving your valuable time today. Your thoughts were really insightful. It was really nice interacting with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shreya, for inviting me, and greetings to all the friends over there. Thank you.